And? To screw it up less next time, although we can't possibly screw it up as badly as the city is screwing this up. And welcome to this Week in Worcester podcast. I am Tom Marino, editor of This Week in Worcester. I'm here, Mr. John Edward Keogh. Hey, Jim. John Edward Keogh. He is executive producer of Managing Media. He is president of Hollywood Film Group. He is a valued and superstar contributor to This Week in Worcester. Hello, Mr. John.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
How goes our Firehouse film that I forgot the name of because I'm a jerk?
It is Burning Down the House. And Burning Down the House, and we are filming the third part tomorrow night, actually, at the Westwood Firehouse in Westwood, Massachusetts. So we're going to do that one, and then that'll be the third. That's the third fire station. That'll kind of get us where we want as far as like interiors of fire stations, and then we will do an interview section probably next week. We're not 100% sure where that's going to be yet. We have a couple more people to interview. And then we will be, headed into post-production. So it's still kind of on time. The plan is to finish it before the end of the year and then start dealing with like distribution and premieres and all that stuff. And the goal is to have a trailer by New Year's Day.
Excellent. My Maria checking in. Hello. So, we are in the holiday season. We had a council meeting last week. I have a council meeting this week. I have a council meeting. Explain to me we can't meet, but, 3 times all summer, but we have meetings December, whatever Tuesday is the 16th and the 30th.
Yeah. And they're like shoehorned in,
it's not the 30th rather. It's not the 30th. It's I think it's 16th and 23rd.
Right. Yeah, it's weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's like they're like shoehorned in, and again, I thought Jenny Pasillo brought up a great point this past Tuesday when she was talking about the tax rates, and she said how this thing gets shoehorned in at the end of the year, and realistically. This stuff, I get it that it's setting the rates for next year, but this really should be done before the beginning of the fiscal year, right? So so it's just off, and it does go. It's a very strong, I think, critique of how the city council schedule is designed. That this is held here. It's probably the most difficult vote they have to take as city councilors, and yet it really has no electoral implications because it's taken after the election. So there's people there that are not like going to be there, and so there's people taking consequential votes that aren't going to be a part of the world of city of Worcester that exists. Sorry, I'm just loading to all of our groups.
No, you're good. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, this should happen, first or second meeting of the year. I mean, they do need to set the tax rate so they know what so they know what the funds are for the budget. But I mean, that can be done, first of the year, and they still have, they really can't finalize budget until the state does its budget, and the state never does its budget. So,
yeah.
In
the budget hearings, though, so here's the crazy thing about this. I thought, again, I just don't see it as it wasn't a robust conversation. It was one meeting. There was a couple of comments. There were some councilors who didn't speak at all. which again, I
Well, that's
don't
something.
understand why there's councils who don't speak about, the money that pays them. Don't understand that. And then, but again, maybe some councils don't feel as comfortable as others talking about it. And then of course the fact that it's done in such a short period of time. But then we have these budget meetings coming up, for the budget, once the city manager finishes the budget, and then the city council goes over what the city manager does, and then there's no questions, but it's spread out over the course of 4 or 5 weeks. We generally have no questions when it comes to that process, and so it's just like, maybe the tax rate should be attached to that process, or some. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So
Nope, doesn't.
Yeah.
And of course, one counselor will ask the majority of the questions because he does, and he'll get criticized for it, but nobody else will ask anything of any.
Yeah, I mean, Councilor King asked most of the questions, and I thought Councilor King asked a bunch of really important, questions, and got city staff, and you got the tax assessor down there. I mean, how many times a year do you get to hear the tax assessor speak about the differences between, the low what they ended up choosing, which was the lowest residential rate, versus the one that was 2 rungs up, which was a slightly higher residential tax rate, and a slightly lower business tax rate, and what the difference actually is per $1,000, right? It was interesting to hear that. I thought it was good. It was interesting to see that it was Kate Toomey and that proposed the little slightly higher rate, and then that there was kind of a slow coalition forming, and then it just ended. Like it seemed like there was going to be a conversation, and then there wasn't.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think, so I get people are, naturally get upset because their taxes keep going up.
Yeah,
I get it. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, Prop 2.5 says that the city can't take in more than 2.5% more than it did the previous budget. And I got a newsflash for you: inflation eats up the majority of that.
Yeah.
And then, when you add on COLA, and there's not a lot of wiggle room there. And far be it for me to typically, plead for mercy on city councilors, but or city government. But I mean, there's not a lot, when inflation's eating up most of the budget increase, and you have cost of living increases and all this other stuff. It's there's no money.
Right. Yeah, there is. There was a bunch of, I thought, valid program things that were brought up, and again, there's no money. I mean, this was the first time the city manager revealed that the state pulled part of its funding for the winter shelter. Right, so that was the first time we heard that publicly, and it was at this meeting. And so now that money now has to be shifted around, and he said now we have to stretch the dollars. Now I wish that was a conversation that was public. Again, I don't understand the secrecy behind what I view as essential services. I'm excited that they found a place to do the winter shelter at the Oriole Drive project, which is supposed to be a permanent housing solution at some point, in the future. I know that there's been delays with that project, but at the same time, that's what the city council's jobs are for, right? Is to talk about those things, and it just, we have less money than we thought we were going to have. And this wasn't even a federal thing. This was a state funding thing that came out, and he said it was a surprise. And then what the city manager has to do, which I think this is where I think a lot of people are disillusioned with politics. I know I find myself disillusioned, as the city manager said, the state has been gracious in giving us help the last couple of years. What do you mean? That's their job. It's our money. Gracious. The state is like this tonality that comes from elected officials is like, we're doing you a favor if we give you this money. No. That's my money. That's Tom's money. That's our money, the people's money. And it is not yours to just willy-nilly hand it out and do whatever you want with it, which you do unequivocally and have done for many, many, many decades and years and centuries. And then whenever anybody questions you, you guys fight back, in my opinion, in a vicious way, trying to, smearing people, destroying people's names in any way they can, just to stop them from being able to present an alternative, opportunity. And it doesn't necessarily have to be um, against something that one of the councilors or the city manager has proposed, but what if it was an enhancement on that? You know what I mean?
No, but I mean, well, this cuts right to the no petitions thing.
Yep.
Is we're all too stupid. We're too stupid to pick our own leader.
Yep.
We're too stupid to have any ideas, and it's it's really all about CYA for them and not being in a position where they have to answer a tough question. It's all. I mean.
But by the way, they hate it when we say this, but if you look at the amount of money just in this term, in this 2-year council term, that they actually paid out in cash to lawsuits, just in this 2-year term, it's more than what the state gave them in assistance for the winter shelter the last 2 years combined. So if they didn't have those lawsuits we can't question them on, right?
Nope.
Paying out. Then we would probably have the money in the budget to take care of the shelter ourselves and not be dependent on whether the state decides that day that they're not going to do it. Because that's what happened. The state, it was, and by the way, just kind of checking base with the state senators and the state reps. This was a blindside from the Healy administration, so it wasn't like something they didn't know. The no senator was known. They didn't talk to the state reps. They just pulled the funding and then or didn't even tell them that. They just sent less than they sent before. They're like, "Here's what you're getting this year. Here you go." That's how it was done. And that's how a lot of things are done too at the state level. It's not, and frankly, as much as I want to critique the state, I would then say also that I get it because they are dealing with 351 cities and towns, so it's not like we're the only one that people are struggling in. It's kind of a widespread, thing. I saw that state the Health and Human Services put out that state homelessness survey. The pre-winter season one, and the current state estimate is that there's a 22% increase year over year in homelessness in elderly folks over the age of people over the age of 65, which is a major crisis. And then the standard group, regular people under 65, it was still an 8% increase. And I think that's like the 16th year in a row where you've had at least 5% increase in the homeless population in Massachusetts. That's a huge. These are not little numbers, folks. These are huge numbers. And here's why it's so important for us to talk about this. I know there's a lot of people that are super critical of people who are focused on homelessness and how to handle those services. The increase in that population outpaces the actual Massachusetts population growth. That's not good. That's not good. That means more people are becoming homeless than are moving into the state, which means, and by the way, when people move into the state, they often need services and different things. And I know exactly where the argument goes. They're going to be like, "Oh, no more immigrants." And let's put a pin in that for 1 second. I'm not talking about those folks. The unhoused and homelessness population is homegrown issue, folks. Before you even talk about folks that are coming from other countries. And by the way, the description of the crisis related to that population growth, as I'm working on a piece for you that's kind of been got paused a little bit, because some personal stuff for me last week. But the numbers turn out to be complete and utter bullcrap when you actually look at the federal numbers, right? It's all exaggerated. It's all, the numbers are not what they say they are. They're cherry picking data and then presenting it to the public, and not telling you like that number that you hear often, like 20 million undocumented people have entered the country, right? You hear that all the time. Under Biden, it was 20 million people, 20 million people, 20 million people. And so, I wanted to do some research, and so I looked into that number, and it's funny how they get there, but it's definitely a counting trick and measure that they're using to get there. But then when you actually look at the real numbers, it turns out it's not as bad as you think. So, but at the same time, our population is growing. Everybody's gone. It was interesting to listen, and we've talked about this more than once. Kay Toomey, Mo Bergman, and Jose Rivera were the most prominent on the campaign trail, regularly repeating this number of a 50% number. Mo Bergman and Jose Rivera, and then Kay Toomey was saying 70%. So those three candidates regularly use this as the population of homelessness is outside of the city of Worcester. 50%, that's what they keep saying.
They're from outside Worcester. They weren't from here when they became homeless, right?
Right. That number's completely made up. It's literally completely 100. Kay Toomey invented it. There is no number, no agency, no documentation, no science behind it. Mo Bergman, he made it up, and Jose made it up. All three of them took a number. Now, I don't know who got it from who. Like, I don't know where it started among the three of them. But if you go back, there's been times when the mayor has said stuff like that. If you go back, there's been times when the city manager has said stuff like that, which is wild because the city's staff puts out a report each year that actually tracks the population. And their population numbers are much lower, like significantly lower than the numbers that have been presented by those candidates and other officials in the city, which are legitimately completely made up. Which goes to show you that the politicians not only lie, but there's no mechanism to stop them from lying because the city itself, which puts out a report that's different, a report, by the way, that the city council asked for, doesn't push back on the numbers either.
Right.
So, to that, I'm going to drink coffee from my gnome mug.
I guess it's just too simple to engage with reality as it is.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of making stuff up, I put up a post, put up a piece on Saturday, midday-ish. That's about the wildly extreme views of some of our self-proclaimed moderate councilors. I did it kind of it's not very long historical review, just two or three major points was, the kind of first iteration of oversight goes back to medieval Europe, for God's sake. In the Magna Carta. And of course, I gave some examples from kind of oversight of the edicts from the crown in pre-revolutionary America, if you will, and then stuff out of the Articles of Confederation, which was just didn't work, but I mean the idea was oversight in some way, and then of course stuff that's embedded in our Constitution and many of the things that our founders wrote. Not perfect men. Slavery was never okay, but knew a lot of stuff about governance. They did know a lot of stuff about governance, and so with that. And that's a very abbreviated history. That massive history of oversight mechanisms and governance. It's kind of a feature of Western civilization. It kind of goes beyond Americanism, right? And yet we have councilors that I don't know what other conclusion to come to. The DOJ report's now a year old. We've just forgotten about that. We're never getting that. Apparently, we're never getting that written report about what's right in the DOJ report. Just going to sit there as a tabled item until it ages out. But in this report from the Research Bureau on Civilian Review Board, that's been coming for 8 or 9 months, right? Before they knew that was coming, and over that whole time, of the 11 total councilors, both present and in the next council, that are just opposed, and it's not going to pass. Anybody that has an idea that there's going to be a civilian review board is drunk, because it's not happening.
Not happening.
But of the 11 councilors that have emphatically stated on the record, at some point at least, that's accounting the mayor who says he's going to think about it, but he's never been for it before. I can't imagine he can change his mind. That includes I'm blanking on his name. Chamber guy who just got elected.
Who?
The chamber guy.
Oh, Dr. Mitra.
Dr. Mitra, why I was blanking. And Dr. Mitra who said he's going to look at the information and think about it. with the
He-
tantrum that
But he
that Tim Murray threw about the Research Bureau report. I can't imagine that's going to happen.
He had to do that though because the Research Bureau rents out Mechanics Hall all the time, and Dr. Mitra is on the board at Mechanics Hall as well. So he can't completely poo-poo them because that's one of his customers. Tom,
no entanglements there.
No entanglements at all here in the city of Worcester. We're completely ethically sound in every way.
But of the 11 councils total, this council and the next, that I've been on the record opposing civilian review. How many have proposed an alternative method of oversight? That would be 0.
Well, so yes, I actually was excited to talk about this with you because I have exactly what they're going to say. I have the counter proposal they're going to tell you.
Everything's fine the way it is.
No, Tom. No. They're going to go in a different direction. They're going to anticipate your argument, and here's where they're going. They're going to say, we have actually proposed a system, Tom, and we've already put it in place. We were all on board for post. We were all on board for an expanded BOPS, and we support Chief Saucier's reforms that he was already doing.
Yeah, just like everything in the DOJ report.
Before the DOJ report came out. And that, of course, those oversight mechanisms, of course, involve more drones, right? So we got a lot of more drones flying around, right? Tracking everybody down. We got more body cameras, more cameras in the cars, more shot spotter, more LVT technologies. Got to post up those things, the blue lights everywhere, all that kind of stuff. More video, more surveillance of citizens because police officers don't commit crimes, Tom. It's just people that do.
Right. And they're not people, they're superhumans.
No. But even when a police officer does commit a crime, they're no longer a police officer, according to the gang.
Which is ridiculous.
That's how they get away with it. They're like, well, they're not. They're a bad apple. It's the entirety of their argument is supported by their argument. It's a snake that eats its own tail. So they argue the bad apples argument whenever something goes wrong, and then when they come back to accountability, they say, well, it's not. We don't need to track everybody because it's only bad apples.
Right.
And
then when somebody like me comes forward, or you, and who has actually read some of these reports and actually looked at the evidence. Something that none of them, that they all refuse completely to do. They refuse to look at the facts. Last time I tried to present Kate Toomey with just where you can read in the federal judge's response to the city's motion to dismiss the jury. I put it right to the document. It's like 20 pages or something. It's 28 pages, I think.
No, refuse knowledge.
And all you only have to read one paragraph. I'll point it out to you. The response was, I'm focused on the future.
Right. Exactly. The future. So there's never, and again, this is so pertinent to your articles because your article talks about this kind of group of counselors who come from the same, generalized, moderate Worcester elite that has existed. And frankly, this is I know a lot of people are gonna get mad, but the McGovern machine, this group of people, Tim Murray, et al., Michael Brown, all the way down the line, all the way to Joe Petty, all the way to the modern version of the council, they've all kind of come from the same school of, and, kind of working relationships. They've all known each other for 20, 30 years. They all went to high school together. They all went to the same clubs. They worked at the same jobs, everything. That same group of people just supports that exact tone that you say is that, well, we're just going to look toward the future. There's never, ever an acknowledgement of wrongdoing that involves repentance. And I'm using that word on purpose for my religious folks that follow. When there's this concept in religion, forgiveness, right? For forgiveness to take place, you need someone to say, I'm sorry. Right? You got an admission of guilt of some kind. And then usually forgiveness takes place. You can't have justice without mercy, right? You can't have mercy without justice. The justice in this case, most of the communities and are consistent in asking only for acknowledgement of what happened. That's it. That's all they want. They just want to say, hey,
acknowledge the problem. Acknowledgement is the first step to fixing it.
100%. So if you admit it, and say, yep, this happened. It doesn't mean, by the way, I've been thinking about this a lot in the last couple days. It doesn't mean you have to admit intent. It doesn't mean you have to admit tone or thought process or any of that. It only means you need to admit the action. No one's asking for you to tell them your entire thought process from when you were 11. They're asking you to say, yeah, this happened. And then from there, you could have healing and growth. When you listen to Mayor Petty, for example, on a regular basis, now he's doing his victory lap, and I get it. You know, he won, he got more votes than he had before. I get it. The victory lap makes sense. He said things like, "You live in a different Worcester than me. I don't know that Worcester. I don't know which community you're talking to," despite the reality that less than 12% of the total physical population of the city of Worcester voted. 22 and change of the voting electorate voted. He doesn't recognize that. So, I mean, which is wild if you think about it. We have a 200 and almost 20,000 person city. We'll see at the next census. Maybe it jumps over 220. Maybe we head to the 230s. It looks like that's a real chance,
That'd
right?
be insane.
Yeah, but the last jump was the last census to census jump was pretty significant, and now that there's a bigger base, maybe if it's the same thing, we're headed towards 230, right? Or at least getting there. We're going to get there not that far. It's not far off where we have 250,000 people in the city of Worcester. We're probably 2-3 decades away from that, and maybe it'll be faster. But especially with the economic plans that they say, they want to draw people to the city and get people to move in. But if you look at that number, 200,000 people pretty much didn't vote. Now, of course, there's a bunch of folks that are juvenile children that can't vote, so that that knocks that number down. But let's just knock it down. Let's say 50,000 of those are people that can't participate in some way. So 150,000 people didn't vote. Not only didn't vote, they don't even participate. They don't go to the polls. They don't engage. They don't talk. They don't show up. They're not at city council, except when they need like a pothole or something like that. But that's a sign of a badly functioning government. They don't engage. You have 150,000 people that just would rather just drive home and ignore you than look at any of the things that you do as valuable. That's a terrible legacy to have. You know what I mean? You want someone to at least acknowledge what you've done? And I don't know that they do. Now, they acknowledge themselves a lot, right? So this inauguration that's coming up on January 3rd is going to be at Doherty. And it is being touted from the rooftops. Kate Toomey is talking about it's a historic city council inauguration. Historic. Wild.
But I mean, talk about the accomplishments of the last term. I dare you.
There are none. And by the way, Doherty High School being completed is not an accomplishment of the last term.
Nope.
It's an accomplishment of 6 terms ago, Joe Petty, not this Joe Petty.
Right.
It was 12 years ago when they started that process.
So, I mean, look, the council, although its job is to set policy, it doesn't do that almost ever.
No.
And so what we have is, again, 11 councilors combined, the two, this term and the next term, stated they're against civilian review. Okay. You know what? I think that I'm not a big fan of civilian review, quite frankly. In a lot of places, I would venture to say even most places, it generally doesn't do anything, doesn't work.
Yeah.
If they're advisory, they write reports, they go to the chief throws them away, they round file them, and that's the end of the conversation.
Yep.
In some cases, are they sometimes people looking to, get some with a grudge? Sure. Are they sometimes not objective? Well, nobody's objective, if you really want to break it down, right? But okay. So, and you have, and I think that probably the most credible thing is you have, depending on who the appointing authority is, on one hand, if it's the appointing authority that would put independent people on a board like that, would they have any knowledge about what they're looking at, right? Like, I mean, synthesizing federal, state law, best practices, policy into a real world scenario, that's not light work, right?
Right.
And so So I think that that's probably the best argument against them is like who gets on there. And then if it's somebody who, you would think wouldn't promote, appoint people that would have independence and look at things in an independent light, well, then the thing has no credibility anyway, right? So I am sympathetic to some of those arguments. But if you're going to civilian review, I mean, the criteria I think here is really independent oversight, right? If you're going to civilian review, well, what is your preferred model? And none of those 11 have proposed one.
Right.
So that begs the question, what is it that they're opposed to? Is it the civilian? Right. They are opposed to oversight. And folks, that is wildly radical.
And so not only are they opposed to oversight, they are opposed to the very concept that they could do anything wrong. Right? When you bring up, for example, Polar Park, right? And you talk about the fact that when Polar Park was proposed, they said that it would pay for itself, that it would be an immediate success, that the district would grow, that all the buildings would be done, and it was a shake hands, high five, ribbon cutting, hard hats, photo op, mission from Jesus, that they were like, it was lockstep and nothing was ever going to go wrong. So now when stuff does go wrong and you say, hey, well, you said it was going to put together $1 million more than this, and they bring that up and say, oh, well, that's because of the way we do accounting. Okay, well, when you say that, hey, how about the buildings that were supposed to be built behind the ballpark? And they're like, well, that was because, the economic conditions changed. And its access to capital is more difficult for the developer, so it's harder. You know what I mean? When you say, hey, some of those developers are spending money willy-nilly with other organizations around the city, but not outside of the city, just in the city itself, they're like, well, that's a different thing because, that's a nonprofit, and so that's not really. There's never an admission ever. So this has nothing to do with the police. We're just talking about Polar Park. And what's going on there? What's going on with the money there? What's going on with what it was supposed to be? Hey, when we talk about just the 8 community days, and you ask about those, and then they say, well, we gave one to the police department. That was never the intention. Right. And by the way, I can go back, and I've done this before. I have video of Mayor Petty talking about these community days being given specifically to community level organizations. And he mentioned at the time, it doesn't exist anymore, organizations like Stone Soup, right? Organizations like Worcester Common Ground, organizations like the Community Action Council. He literally says it with his own mouth. Then when you bring that back up to him, he's like, well, it was an evolving situation. So it doesn't matter. They never admit anything is wrong ever. Anything is ever wrong. With the Worcester Regional Research Bureau's report on civilian review, they asked for it. They asked the city manager. He said on the city floor, now you can go back and watch this meeting. He actually said that day, I'm thinking that I'd probably give that to the Worcester Regional Research Bureau. And they said yes. And if you go to the budget hearing, they had to pay for that report. That wasn't a free report. And the city councilors all unanimously like, yeah, absolutely, go ahead. That's definitely important money to spend. We're looking forward to this report. And go back to those hearings last February on, Mo Bergman, Mayor Petty, George Russell, Kate Toomey, Donna Calorio, repeatedly, we're looking forward to this report. We're looking forward to this report. City manager quoted it at his own State of the City address. That was in March. And then it comes out in September, and you got Hank Stolz going on the radio saying, oh, all the progressives are demanding an opinion now. What? No. They were asking for it the whole time. Right. They were looking forward to it. The reason why you're upset is it didn't have the answer you thought was going to have. So then the response was, well, I'm going to quit. Tim Murray packed his ball and went home because it didn't say what he wanted to say. And now he's questioning the integrity of the Worcester Regional Research Bureau, the structure of the board of directors. It's like, what? Well, wait a second. Where did this come from? All of a sudden, Paul Matthews is a progressive? It's wild stuff that you're seeing here in the city. And when you push them on this, they pretend it never happened. It just nope, nope, nope. But I have it on video. Nope, nope, no. But I have blood DNA evidence. Nope, nope, no. I have a picture of you in the boom boom room with a midget. Nope, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. A little person. Sorry. That was a quote from the movie, by the way. Sorry.
This isn't like the first fundamental, kind of core piece of American governance that they've just refused to even acknowledge exists. Never mind adhere to. I mean, they don't believe in separation of powers at all.
No,
it's all one team. Everybody's on one team. There's no executive and legislature. That doesn't exist in Worcester. That's just all one team. There's no oversight. Oversight's good enough for the United States military. It's good enough for all the intelligence agencies. Good for the State Department, et cetera, et cetera. And what do they have there? They have a inspector general system, an independent investigatory arm that investigates into those departments. Not good enough for Worcester. What's good enough for the CIA? It's good enough for the CIA, which has obviously, I mean, we can talk about bad things at the CIA endlessly, but it's good enough for the CIA, which obviously has very mission critical confidential data, to say the least. And it's good, but it's good enough for them.
So Tom, the thing is they're worried that they won't be able to get away with it. And I want to tell this to my reluctant conservative city councilors. You will get away with it. You want to know why? And the inspector general in the military just recently put out a report that said Pete Hegseth actually did text top secret plans into that Signal group chat that we all saw. We all knew what it was because the F-35 program is top secret, and so every time you mention the F-35 right off the bat, it's a top secret program. And so yes, he did. And of course, telling someone where the bombs are going to drop, that's probably operational military planning, right? So he did text war plans or military plans to a group chat that he didn't realize that a reporter was on. Hilarious stuff. Do you know what's happened since that report? Yeah, the Republicans are just like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's no.
But I mean, at least there's a report, though.
There's a report, right? But so what I'm saying is, what it reveals to me is that our current majority, that's going from 6-5 to 8-3 on this council. You guys have it in spades. You could just give us the inspector general, and then you could just question every report the IG does. You just did it to the Regional Research Bureau, and that worked out great.
You did it to the goddamn Department of Justice.
Yeah, absolutely. The Department of Justice released the report. You guys hammered that thing into the ground too. You guys will never, and you won. And here's the wild thing is, Tom, they're still resistant to even something as innocuous as a report issuing agency that just is a fact finder, despite the fact that they have evidence that their system of just denying works. They literally do, because the DOJ report came out last December, before the December 18th meeting that wasn't a riot. It came out before that, right? So 100%, it's been about a year since the report came, a little bit more than a year, December 5th, I think it was last year. And they have completely trashed that report for a year straight. Yep. And there is zero consequences. In fact, they expanded the majority.
Yep.
So they won. So if I was to say to them, hey, all I'm asking for is another person who's going to issue a report, you guys defeated the Department of Justice. You guys don't even have anything to worry about. You guys are so strong in the city of Worcester's electorate. No one even cares if the Department of Justice, by the way, headed by 2 Trump employees, that was very, very essential to this report. You just denied everything that they said. So what are you worried about? What are you worried about? There is nothing that touches them politically. Nothing.
Well, no, one thing can touch them politically, though, and that is they can see that their support from the police, though, from particularly the patrolmen's union, wane, because it seems very apparent to me that the demand from the patrolmen's union is nothing is to change.
That's right.
And that is the mandate that they got from their owners, and so and city councilors are acting accordingly to their orders. I mean, when you can get away with doing absolutely anything, I don't want to say absolutely anything, just about anything you want to do,
I mean, short of murder, I mean, we see, I mean, things that have not been charged crimes for officers, and not just officers, but officials here in the city of Worcester that would be charged with crimes for everybody else. If I did
Everybody else.
jail like that, we know they're all, dude. If they could pin something on me, I'd be gone in a hot second.
Oh,
My
yeah.
goodness.
You and me both.
John B disappeared like in an ice van or something. I'd be gone.
You and me both.
They might wait till one of these podcast episodes and knock at the door of the office just to get me on so it's nice and on camera here. You know what I mean?
Right down. Oh yeah, if they had something, I mean,
right down that hallway, right there, ladies and gentlemen. They'd come get me in a second.
Yeah. So you know, and then there's, you know, some councilors that keep lying, and that's what it is. These are lies now. This isn't posturing. This is whatever it is. Promoting Post as the solution to the problems. Post is not going to do your job, the job that you will not do, that is yours, for you. They are in oversight of the oversight. They're supposed to set standards and run the certification program. They're not. I mean, it says right on their website. I put it in the piece. It says right on their website. If you go to file a complaint, it says right there. They send those complaints to the agency that you're complaining about to do the primary investigation, and then they look at the investigation results. They do not analyze the actual evidence unless they find a reason to. Right. And they have the staff of their last annual report of 46, and they think that they're going to do oversight for 351 cities and towns, or just Worcester? Are you just special? It's gross. It's gross. It's gross.
Yeah.
So this is a fundamental core piece. Checks and balances. They are against checks and balances.
Yes. And just, which in my mind makes them anti-American. If you say you believe in America, but you don't believe in checks and balances, you're not really American. You believe in this other version of America, which, by the way, you've been very successful in implementing, which is the two-party neoliberal duopoly that exists in our company. And so and that's where we're at in our country right now. And you guys have been super successful at it. So the funny part is that then they're offended, Tom. That I love the offense level by even asking questions. Like,
how dare you? Look, this is authoritarian. This is an authoritarian trait. How dare you question the leader?
It is. Don't you dare, Tom. Don't you dare question them.
Dare question the wisdom of the Politburo.
That's right. And by the way, for those super Democrats that follow the show, you guys do the same shit. You guys do the same exact thing when you're in charge. And by the way, the people that we're talking about, all Democrats.
Yep.
All registered members of the Democratic City Committee, all fundraisers for your favorite Congressman Jim McGovern, Robin Kennedy, blah 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 blah. They are all interconnected folks. This is the same group of people. They color themselves in these topics that you say that you like, but in the end, the actual policy and the outworking of the city government in the city of Worcester consistently and regularly is for a small group of people, a small group of companies, and a very, short-sighted approach to the remainder of the city. And it is what it is. And by the way, it's been a perfectly executed system for almost 100 years. They have nailed this thing, and they're better at it than you guys are at holding them accountable. And as much as Tom and I and other local writers, and I feel proud to be part of a kind of independent, an independent media system that is trying at least to talk about things outside of the glad handing, shake your hand, pat you on the backside. You did a good job building this new building group, versus actual tangible change for people in reality. Like, how do we affect change in reality? And I think there has to be a different way. And so, Tom, I at this point, I don't think any of the, what I would say, the like the political class and then their backbench that they're developing, like the people that they want to come up, that they'll change, because their ideology system is so it's so strong and so deliberate that you have to develop a separate system outside to get them to do anything different, or you have to use brute force. And I mean by that I mean political brute force, not physical violence, but like you have to get 50,000 signatures. You're going to have to go get a massive operation to turn out the vote to change everything, and in the end, if you did do that, right? Let's say something happened this year where someone got a big change into the government or changed the charter or got a big movement, they would believe to the very end that they were going to win. They have no doubt in their mind that they're going to win. And I would say, just look at the response to Candy Merrill Carlson's loss in District 2. There are people literally crying out to God. Father Savinkus online crying out to God as if this was an ordained thing that he expected to happen, and that it's devastating for the future of the city. In his mind, even though the majority grew 8-3, but that was the one, I guess, difference in change. And because he's so short-sighted, he doesn't even know that Rob's not really like this wild leftist, radical person that they're talking about here. It's so interesting to see them try to position certain people as being this wild to the this, and that works with the Worcester voters. It really does. It's an effective tool.
Yep. Yeah, and then any suggestion that again, the police they are fighting. They will fight to the death to ensure that the police department is the only person that can investigate the police department. The only place that the police department can be investigated is inside the police department. And how do you think that's going to work out?
Well, it doesn't. I mean, in the end, no organization has ever succeeded in investigating itself. No person does. I mean, nobody truly views themselves correctly. It's hard to view yourself individually, objectively. It just is. It is. And it's really hard when you have someone in front of you who you care about, and your job is to review them, right? That's why most people, it's always a struggle if you start a company and you hire a relative. It's almost always a struggle because now you have to review your relative, right? Mm-hmm. And that's hard to do. Yeah. And so the same thing in this case, they promote as an internal monoculture within the police structure that says that they are brothers, brotherhood, oneness, thin blue line, first responders. We're at the tip of the spear. They got the cavalry flag on their shoulder. If anybody recognizes that, when you have the flag backwards, it means you think you're going into war. They wear it on their shoulders. That is the thought. So they get up every day. And by the way, I just want to quote Mayor Petty, City Manager Batista, Public Safety Chair Kate Toomey, and Chief of Police Paul Saucier, all this year saying that this is one of the safest mid-sized cities in America. Yet the police department is going to war. That's the thought process. Right? They don't see that as a contradiction. If you point that out, they'll just be like, oh, everybody wears it like that. But then if you point out that that's connected to the thin blue line, brotherhood, this thing, that thing, no, everybody, if someone's accused of something, everybody shelter. Bad apple. Nobody's bad. Nobody's bad. Nobody's bad. They feel like they act as if they're under attack. Yet, by the way, local American criticism of the police department just started the other day. Historically speaking, for more than 135 years, the police operated with impunity in the United States of America, without question, ever in any capacity. The only time it started getting questioned was when you started killing Black people on video. That's when people said, "Hey, man, this is not. I don't think we want this, right?" And then they were like, "How dare you, thin blue line?
Yeah, you're just a cop hater."
Oh, you hate police. I'm like, hey, but okay. I just don't want that guy to die on video. Please, can we not murder teenagers online on screen, please? And thank you, Mr. Officer. You don't understand. You don't know what it's like to be under the gun. Well, you know what? Actually, Dick, I do. Because I grew up in the ghetto and I've had guns pointed at me probably more than the 99% of officers. It's a very rare event based on total encounters. It's very, 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 very rare. It's not every single day that you go out there and put your life on the line. No, you don't. No, you don't. The vast majority of the time, you get in your car, you cruise around the city, you might throw your lights on because someone sped through a red light, and you go back to the station. The vast majority of the time, just like the fire department, the vast majority of the time, fire department gets up, they have their shift and they go home. We pay them and we keep them working for the bad situations, for the extreme emergencies. That's the whole point. We want you to be successful. We want to give you a high salary for that. No one's questioning that. When we question high salaries, it's because we question the dude standing outside of Polar Park making $240,000 a year. I don't care about the detective who's solving murders left and right getting $240,000 a year. Good. That's great. That's awesome. Good job, Mr. Detective, whoever you are, that's solving all the murders.
Well,
awesome.
And folks in the special crimes unit that all their additional income is from overtime, and they don't work details because they don't have time for that.
Those guys I'm happy with, and I'll wear a thin blue rind T-shirt and I'll go play the baseball game and I'll salute the general and all that stuff. The firefighters who make $250,000 a year, who run into buildings while they're burning, yeah, that guy 100%. Give him all the money he wants. That's not. No one's complaining about those guys or those girls. No one's complaining about them. We support them wholly. You have the support of the public. Have you ever seen what happens when somebody from the police or the fire department passes away? Do you not know? Do you not know that everybody comes out? Everybody, the whole world comes out for you. We all love that. We believe in that. That's how we no one's questioning that on a realistic basis. No one's questioning that. We're questioning why do you need 40 AI powered drones that the city manager said that he wanted to get, but then turned out that he doesn't remember that he said it 2 weeks later. Dude, like, that's what we're questioning. We don't want that. Can we ask? Or actually, how about this? Let me say this, Tom. If they did figure out a way to have an AI powered drone that actually could save a kid in a pond, right? That existed in the world. Of course I would want that. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. What about the child who's in the ice pond and is drowning? Now we can save them with the giant hook drone. Oh, yeah, if you can make that thing, make it. Make that thing. I want that. Yes. But
if you say, well, what about the people that are freezing outside right now? Well,
no. Those people are drug addicts and they're mentally enabled, Tom. So we can't take care of them. No.
No, too expensive.
I bet I hear. You know what? For the folks in the chat, they're advocates for the unhoused. Let me tell you an idea. I just got it. Just right. It just happened live on this.
Oh, God help us.
Cut this and make this a real. Already, we're going to solve everything for the unhoused population right now. Here's what you do. Propose a drone / AI-based unhoused transportation program. This is how it works. If someone's unhoused, a drone comes and picks them up, and they like Mary Poppins holding onto the bottom of the umbrella and brings them to wherever the location for services are based on the AI brain in the drone, who knows how to bring them to places where there's an open bed, right? Dude, they'll all be on board for that. We'll get an 11-0 vote in January. Can someone put that on the agenda? Can someone please, Tom, please?
So parlaying into our next item, Councilor Haji, upon the urging of somebody I might know, wink, has an item on the agenda asking for the city auditor to audit the Bureau of Professional Standards records. I am in possession of a officer information card. These are, you've seen them on, if you've watched this regularly, I've put them up before. It's a piece of paper that tracks all the investigations into an officer, and the disposition of those investigations, which is almost always, they didn't find anything. Like one officer has been investigated 28 times, has, I don't know, 50 something charges within those investigations, allegations within those investigations. Never found responsible for one of them. That seems realistic.
It was a vast right-wing conspiracy, Tom. Vast.
No, it was a vast Biden conspiracy at the DOJ, but that's another story.
No, but Biden wasn't there yet, though. So it was. It started in the '90s, so it was definitely Newt Gingrich for sure that did it.
So I have this officer information card of this officer, and it was produced for me by a records request by the city in I think it was May of this year. Okay, and then I have a BOPS report that I got from a resident, mind you. And this officer information card, again printed this year, says that the last investigation of this officer was in 2020. Yet this BOPS report that I have, that I got again from a resident, that officer was investigated. Of course, found nothing found, but that was signed off on by the then chief, or it wasn't this chief, the last chief, in 2023. So the records aren't accurate. Now I know that it's a one-off, blah blah blah. Doesn't matter. This is all we have because you won't do anything to protect us from rogue people in the police department. So this is what we have. We can seek information and try to mitigate our exposure. I also asked for, I figured, it'd be interesting to look at like the performance, the kind of rate of finding fault in their investigations over a kind of a longer period of time. So I asked for, they have these, it's just a spreadsheet, but it's by year, every year they have a list of the investigations they did in the disposition. I thought it'd be interesting to look at that, like over the last two chiefs, to see how it changed, right? To see if like the number of investigations or like the quote unquote conviction rate, finding somebody responsible, that rate changed. And I asked for these yearly, data compilations of the investigations back to 2000, because that was when the chief before the last one, Chief Jem, became chief. So you have 20 full years plus, obviously, of looking at the performance of and like what BOPS investigations have found. And I got back to 2017, and they said they didn't have them before then. Full stop. Get them. So, and look, I am post blaming the police department. I'm over it, blaming the police department. Of course they don't care about. Of course the records are screwed up. Of course they don't have anything before then. They don't care. Why don't they care? Because nobody in city council, well, the majority of the city council, a voting majority of the city council, doesn't care at all what they do.
So I agree with you, but I will also say I do fault a little bit the narrative of current chief of police, Paul Saucier, because he's been speaking about 2017 and 2019 as if it was 1913.
Yes.
And we were all the records were kept by carrier pigeon back then. Dude, bro, the personal computer was invented in 1980, right? Am I right? 1980?
I forget. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So it's been a while that police officers have had computers to type reports on. And I'm pretty sure before that there was typewriters, right? Was there typewriters too?
I heard of such a thing once.
Okay, all right. So, and I'm also pretty sure that those reports can be scanned, because I'm pretty sure fax machines were also invented in the 1970s, and scanning technology, ladies and gentlemen, is just an extension of fax or facsimile technology, which is old, really, really old. In fact, actually, the idea of a facsimile or a copy, a pressed print, is like hundreds and hundreds of years old. It's called a printing press. But hey, let's not get into like the weeds of technology, Tom. But they do make it seem like 2017 was this ancient time, and it's so hard to go back thousands of years in the past. You need Gandalf to go to the mines of Moria and dig in there with his ring and all that, and like get down in there to be able to find a report from 8 years ago. What the heck? It's so
and so Like I don't know what should we what is the in this scenario where you have a council who doesn't care what they do, and you have a small group of people relatively compared to the whole department that are really the ones that are out of control and do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And they won't do anything about it because their owners told them not to. So, I mean, what do you suggest? What should you suggest to residents of this city when dealing with people from the police department? I don't know what to tell people besides if you don't know the person, be very leery because you have no idea, because you might hit the unlucky lottery, and you might have a person who both knows they can do anything they want, which is everyone, and the smaller group of people that is willing to do whatever they want.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, I think that, communities within the city, and again, this is, coming down from commentary that I hear from leaders within the Black and Brown community and, smaller groups of people in the city of Worcester. They have just all kind of closed rank, and they don't share information with the police department. They very rarely, if ever, meet. When people do meet in those capacities, it's usually neighborhood meeting driven, where there's like a large group of people and there's like bright lights and there's an ability to see things. I mean, and that's why in some of those communities you have a higher rate of murders going unsolved. But part of the reason that happens is because someone might come forward with information, but they feel like they're going to be accused themselves not because they did anything, but because they happen to be the same color as the person or the persons involved. And so that's a fact of life for people. It's a fact of life. It doesn't now. The same thing is that we're going to talk about the school stuff in a minute. When we talk about police officers in schools, of many community members who are leaders now of organizations that happen to be Black and Brown here in the city of Worcester, have shared experiences where they were in school and an officer approached them but didn't approach their white friend. Or they were walking down the hallway and got stopped and questioned, where are you going? What class are you on your way to? And then behind them was a group of white students that didn't get stopped. That was their experience. I'm not talking about violence here. I'm not talking about beatings. I'm talking about general interactions. So the only arguments that are presented against this scenario is, oh, they're just making it up. Okay, so you're going to say that. So they're just making it up as a community. Steve Sargent, former last chief of police, said, I've never seen it in his department, ever.
Yet he investigated it.
Right, but he said in his experience he never saw racism in the Worcester Police Department. That was the quote. In his experience.
Yet he investigated a BOPS complaint into someone and found that person responsible.
Right, but again, right, he was lying. We know he was lying. But what I'm saying is that statement passed the Worcester media / city council operations, went through it all. Right, Telegram and Gazette, Mass Live, Gardening didn't exist back then. Spectrum, all our buddies, Hank Stoles, right, all our buddies, right, all our friends. It passed through that whole cycle, went through all those city councilors, and no one thought, maybe that's wrong. Yeah, maybe we should check that out, because the guy that was the head of the organization. And again, if you reject the DOJ report for all you want, right? But you know what's interesting about the DOJ report? It does have a very interesting piece in it. If you go back and read it, it's a long report, but read the beginning. The lead author says, uses the word when interim chief Paul Saucier took over, the Worcester Police Department began participating in all of our records and investigation requests. So that's a timestamp, right? That's a very important timestamp. When began. So that means that before there was a lack of participation, right? There was a lack of transparency. That wasn't 7 years ago, right? 2023. That was only 3 years ago. So that's not that long ago to ask that request. By the way, this BOPS complaint that Tom brought up, it was in 2023. in the same time period. And it disappeared from Tom's official request for those things. So if we have one example of something just disappearing into the other, is it possible that maybe there's more information in there or more reports, and there's nobody within the organization investigating that stuff directly?
Nope. No, nobody in the city. Nobody.
So that means that, but there is information that somebody knows somewhere. Because, by the way, the officer that was accused on that BOPS report, at least he knew about it, and at least the investigatory officer knew about it. So you had at least two people, the investigatory officer and within the police department, that knew about it, and of course the person who filed the complaint. So you had three individuals in the city of Worcester who knew about that investigation, which the person was eventually cleared. They told us initially it didn't exist. And Tom found it through somebody else. He still, in fact, he didn't get that from the police. He got that from a resident, as he pointed out. That alone, that single incident, means there's a potential that exists more. Now, they'll tell you, oh, it's just a one-off. That doesn't happen. At the same time that they're saying that their paperwork trail in 2017 apparently went into the Stone Ages. So there's you can't have it both ways. The whole point of what we're trying to do is to educate you that are watching the show right now, that you read the articles, that you pay attention to the legitimate contradictions inside their own communications to the public. Tom put a request in for those reports. It didn't exist. He found it through a resident. Again, the resident hands it to him. He then asks them about it. They say that there's parts that don't exist there. By the way, now it's possible that there's more reports on that record of that individual officer that we don't know about.
Well, but
more complaints.
So I mean, look, we for now, at least for the next 2 years, we need to accept that they're not going to do anything. They don't care what happens to us. Nothing that a police officer did wrong will be acknowledged. And if that officer, or a group of officers, for example, like gets together and makes up a totally false story that is then proven false by video evidence, that there will be no consequences for that. We have to accept that. That's just the reality of it, at least for the next 2 years. But at least allow either people like us who are trying to inform people about this information, or residents themselves who are going through the process of filing for public records requests to be ignored for 2 months before they actually get the thing.
Still waiting on
to seek out their own information to mitigate their exposure to people that they can identify are dangerous, which there are some. At least have the records right. Now, this will be the second this gets brought up. Councilor Toomey will move to file it. It will be filed. Nothing will happen.
Yep.
Because we're not even entitled to true information. They don't even feel an obligation to provide information that's accurate. They feel no obligation to any of us. They hate us. They don't care what happens to you at all.
They don't. And when they let you into the club, like a little bit, when you get to hang out with them at the Tatna Country Club or the Worcester Club, or you get to go to an event at Mechanics Hall, or you get to go to something at Hanover Theater, it's not because they like you. It's not because they like you at all. Either A, you paid for a ticket, or B, in some capacity at that moment, you further their agenda. That's it.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, look, I talked to plenty of councilors that I disagree with tremendously on, especially this issue, because I mean, I don't know how you couldn't disagree with them.
Yeah, you talk to a lot of people, Tom. I know that you have great sources, and what I'm saying is that they haven't said anything.
I wouldn't even say they're sources. I mean, I have conversations with them that are useful,
Yeah, but they don't say anything publicly. So we have a system now, and it's not that there's no councils that say anything publicly, but I will point out that even the councils that do say things publicly also pander to this ruling class on a regular basis. They have to. They got to get up and they got to say, "You've been doing a great job, such and such, and I know you're doing a great job, such and such, and I'd like this report, please, sir. May I have another report, sir?" And then you hear. I said an interesting thing. this is kind of off the record stuff, and I'm not going to point out anybody in particular, but at the end of the last city council meeting, right? The city council has voted for the lowest residential tax rate, which of course doesn't really increase the income that much. Taxes did go up, but it's not a huge increase. It was the lowest possible increase, right? And at least for the residents, and the business rate went up by the third lowest, right? So there were multiple comments afterwards and giggles when they were like, lowest tax rate, but you want more services, right? So politically speaking, there's this kind of concept there. And so that's how they are. The people that you see on TV, that's not who they are. That's not who they are. I'm there all the time. They're not the same. As soon as the lights go on for city council TV each week, they become that thing. And then once the lights go off, they make fun of you. They make fun of you. They think you're hilarious. They just want to get their thing, man. That's the vast majority of them. Now, is it every single one of them? No. But the ones that you would hope would be brave and push forward, either they don't push hard enough, or B, they leave. And they don't come back. And so we don't really have, there's not even a entrenched resistance, right? You know what I mean? There's not even a truly developed minority opinion inside of Worcester politics. It doesn't really exist, because even within that, if there was, it's fractured at best.
And if you express an alternative view, well, then you're just a chaos candidate.
Yeah, you're a chaos candidate. You're divisive. You're not polite. Gary Rosen, as he said multiple times now, and I'll see him tomorrow for TV, and I'll tell him this to his face. They're too young. They're not experienced enough. He just insult after insult after insult, just because they don't agree with the majority's policies. And I appreciate Gary's push for getting rid of Spectrum cable and rubber sidewalks, but at the same time, I would like to see progress in maybe some other areas. I will say this, Tom, real quick, to connect this before we move on to the kids stuff. I did really enjoy Sam's report for WGBH on housing. It's the first media organization outside of you who has reported on any of the numbers, any of the information that the city puts out in relation to housing and the housing markets. And I saw Sam got pushback immediately from the people now, because now they're going to try to tag Sam as somehow not being being outside of the mainstream. And he got literal physical evidence. He went to buildings and spoke with people who live in the buildings and found out that, yes, the vacancy rate that the city has reported, which I'm also working on a longer term study, is complete and utter garbage. It's a made up number. It literally is invented by the city. The city manager should be ashamed that he signs off on the report that puts out that vacancy rate, because it is bullcrap. And they use that vacancy rate to justify the high rents. They used it it was a wonderful report. Good job by Sam. I appreciate, somebody else digging in on that stuff. But even that, from a respected, because you and I are not respected, but a respected media entity like WGBH, even that, you can't do that. That's not allowed. So we're going to hammer you now too, right? Go right at him. Smash Sam, which is crazy, which is wild stuff, because he's in the middle, he's right in the group there, and no, he's not allowed to check on how many people are actually living in apartment buildings. Nope, can't do that. That's not allowed. That questions the official narrative, folks. Can't allow that. No. We need our $4,000 single room apartments.
And just my personal advice for anybody who comes under fire from inside city government, don't tuck your chin and take it. You better fire back harder than they fired at you, because they will just keep coming. Yep. They'll just keep coming. If they're going to take a pound of flesh, you better take one too, because otherwise they'll just take more.
I will say this: as much as it hasn't resulted in policy change, I at least, me personally, and I'm just talking about me, and I know Tom's had similar success, because I've gone at the drone thing for so long, right? When I went to the public safety meeting and asked for certain questions to be added to that report, they just were like, hey, we don't want to deal with him anymore. Put the questions in the report. Now, is that going to result in policy change? No, I don't
Because
think
they
so
don't
at
care
all.
about the facts.
But at least on that report, it's going to be really hard for the city manager to come back with a report that's dishonest, because they voted it through, right? And the people that voted it through were the majority, the 6, right? Those were the people who voted for the report. So now it's going to be hard for them to, because they asked for it, right? So then if he gives them information that doesn't fit the narrative, they can't really question it, just like which would happen with the Regional Research Bureau report. It's really hard. It makes it look bad. And then you watch them twist each other in the wind because they don't know how to fix it, because it's not us saying it, it's them saying it about themselves. So good. So good. It's great. It's great. But no one will vote them out, so it doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, that's, I wouldn't look at it quite like that.
I don't know. Just I'm going on 40 years of evidence. I'm waiting for a change, like John Mayer writing songs about waiting for a change. Meanwhile, the whole time he was, doing the same thing that he always did with every woman he ever saw. So, anyways, you know what I mean? It's the same. It's the same thing. They will sing the high praises of change and progress, and then they will never, ever, 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 ever do it.
Reported. So watching me, I'll obviously go and speak on that item about auditing BOPS. They won't do it, but
wait.
That'll be on Tuesday. On Friday, Worcester Public Schools put out a press release. Now, there was just contempt. Just contempt for statistics that were released by Worcester Public Schools that showed that there were, up from 2020 school year 24, there was 92 incidents of assaults against staff members. 92. And
it went from 92 to 150, right?
Went to 158.
158.
And so the coalition to throw as many kids out of school as humanly possible inside the school committee, that's Diana Biancaria, Maud Fredo lover, what's her name? I'm losing it. Maureen Benenda, and the other one who doesn't say anything and just votes with them. They were just, woo! Well, they tore up, man. They were ready to throw all the kids out.
Absolutely. Just 3 weeks ago.
Minimum amount of suspensions to instill discipline. They didn't say that, but I mean, they just cannot get enough of throwing kids out of school. How terrible it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And by the way, Gary Rosen, our moderate middle of the road vote, he was on TV with me saying how important it was to bring police back into the school to handle these ruffians. And he said, no teacher ever exaggerated these claims ever. We know it. Gary, a former school committee member and a longtime teacher in Worcester Public Schools, of course he would have that opinion. And he would 100% defend that initial report. And when, I don't know, me, you, I don't know, a school committee member, Jermaine Johnson, said, hey, maybe we should just wait for the full report to come out. What happened, Tom? What happened when the full report came out?
Of those 158 assaults on staff members, how many of those do you think occurred in high school?
Oh, Tom, I mean, it's got to be like 154, right?
I mean, it must be, right? Throw all those kids out. Yeah, it was actually, it is up to 2 from 24, from 8 to 10.
It went from 8 to 10. I mean, correct. That still means we definitely need, wait a second. Wait, if it only went from 8 to 10 in high school, are you saying that all the other ones happened with younger?
Wait. So how many of those do you think occurred in middle school?
Oh, I don't know, Tom. Well, it's got to be it's got to
be over 100, right?
It's got to at least be the vast majority. Now it's got to be middle school.
It was 10. It was actually down from 20 in 2024 to 10 in 2025.
That's wild.
Well, that 131 of these 158 were elementary school students. It was up sharply. It was up from 60 to 131.
What?
So above elementary school, of these 158 assaults on staff members, 27 of them were above elementary school.
And that was actually a decrease from the year before. In total.
High school was up 2, middle school was down 10.
Wow.
And they have, I guess, the alternative schools, it was up 3 to 7.
Hey, does anybody know? I don't know. I don't want to get into too many things. But does anybody know? Middle school. How old are people when they're in middle school? Like what age are they now? What's the highest age of a middle schooler, Tom?
It's like you get to become a freshman at 13, don't you?
So are you talking about that the highest group of assaults increased in kids 12 and down?
Oh no, it's younger than that. Elementary school, not middle school.
Oh, it's not even middle school. It's elementary school.
No. So I think we're talking the 3rd grade.
Oh,
so those kids are what, like 11, 12?
Wait a second. So what's the oldest age in elementary school? I just want to make sure I got my numbers right, Tom, because this is all over the place. I don't even know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think isn't elementary school at the 4th grade? So that'd be.
Oh, I think it's fifth grade is I think it's 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th is considered middle school.
Okay, so 4th grade. Okay.
So how old are kids when they're in 4th grade?
Like 11.
Like 11? So 11-year-olds and down were the place where all these
were the primary culprit responsible for the vast majority. I'll do a percentage for you. Just for the heck of it.
Great. I love these numbers. This is great. This is awesome. I love statistics. Let's go.
It was 82.9% of those assaults occurred in elementary school.
Came from element. Now I have a question, Tom. There's a couple of school committee members that used to be, at some point, teachers in the Worcester Public School.
True.
And a couple of them, and I'm not quite sure if I can pinpoint this. A couple of them worked in elementary schools for a very long period of their careers.
I honestly don't know.
Oh, and it would just be interesting. I wonder how many of them have like a network of elementary school teachers that have been longtime Worcester Public Schools employees that they have talked to over the past couple of years about, reporting incidents of violence. I mean, that would never happen, right? It would never be like a school committee member told some of the people that they used to work with, hey, you should start making sure that you report anytime an 8-year-old talks back to you. Like, that would never happen, Tom. Would that ever happen?
No, in Worcester?
That would never happen. That would never happen, right? Guys, I mean, come on. Guys in the chat, that would never, no teacher would ever do such a thing that they would start reporting 8-year-olds, right? That would never happen. Would it?
And the interesting thing about these statistics, by the way, they also break it down by grade and number of events and number of students. The highest grade level,
sure.
Well, the grade level with the highest number of events, there was 27 events in the 1st grade.
The 1st grade. Oh man! And how old
that involved? That involved 10 students. It sounds like you have some students that need intervention, not expulsion.
Oh man, Tom, wait a second. Hold on a second. So are you telling me that Gary Rosen and Mayor Petty and Hank Stolz and all the kind of middle of the road folks in our city, I love it, very, very important moderates, very important that we get this out there, that they were wrong that it was 158 kids total too?
It was actually 70 students.
It was only 70 students. Oh my goodness. And there was apparently 10 6-year-olds who did something so vile that it rose to the level of a staff member saying it was an assault on them. Is that correct?
Oh, you know what? I screwed it up. I was actually looking at the year before because they're side by side. The highest grade level this year in 2020, so that was 2024, was 27 amongst 10 students.
Okay, first grade is last year. Okay,
first grade. My apologies. In last year, it was the highest grade level tied in 1st and 2nd grade with 35 events a piece. In first grade, it was 14 students. In second grade, it was 17 students.
So wait a second, 35 events apiece in first and second grade. So 70 events among 6 and 7-year-olds. And
Yes.
and we, you know what, Tom, listen, I think you know what, at this point, Maureen Bienda, Diane Biancheria, Kathy Roy, Hank Stoles, Gary Rosen, all the folks, you guys have convinced me. We need a full paramilitary organization to police these rabidly violent 6 and 7-year-olds, 6 and 7-year-olds in the city of Worcester. We need to get the police in there. We need bulletproof vests. We need full-scale metal detectors. And hey, Tom, dude, I could have sworn, didn't they say that weapons were down?
Weird, huh?
Dang, man. Is it possible?
I don't think that is in this report. I just want to, because I mean, now we're really, hold on though. There's one thing we need to mention, that there was the next highest number of events.
Yes.
In a single grade year. This is really important now. This is really getting to that point. That was kindergarten with 26 events amongst 10 students.
26. Hold on, I gotta write this down. Wait, let me see the math real quick. Are you telling me that 96 events happened among 5, 6, and 7?
That appears to be the case.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
And just for I mean,
this is ridiculous. Vienna, oh my God, no, they haven't developed. Oh my God, the COVID excuse. Oh, I gotta. Can you please put on the 3 comments back, Fred Nathan comment on the screen? It's now 4 comments back there. We got to get that up there. A 6-year-old can fly off the handle. Can we get that up there? Oh my goodness, Fred, you have convinced me 100. You need a full ICE operation inside of the city, in every elementary school, every kid. I don't know how we can stop it, folks. At this point, the evidence is in. 5, 6, and 7-year-olds in Worcester are a scourge. They were just a scourge of violence and just undue behavior. 96 of 158 incidents happened in 5, 6, and 7-year-olds. I mean, they are just wild and crazy kids. Just wild and crazy
so
kids.
let's go to students that are almost adults, right? They have the size, the strength, whatever. In the 12th grade, it was up. Now, the number of events was up 400% in the 12th grade. From one in 2024 to 4 in 2025.
How many students, Tom?
Oh, it went from 1 student to 5 students. So the number of students involved is 500% up from 1 to 5.
I know that they don't want to get into it, but I could have sworn that there was a news report of a fight in the school system last year among seniors that was at a football game. And how did I know that? Because I was there. Oh, my bad. I was at one of the high school football games when 3 students got into a fist fight. This report.
This is only staff assaults. It's staff assault incidents, just to be clear.
That is true. 3 kids got into a fight, and a staff person jumped into the middle of the fight, and the staff person got hit in the disruption of the fist fight at a football game. And we really need police in the school to take care of that, Tom. I mean, 100%. At this point, Fred Nathan is 100% right. Like I'm on board now, Tom. They've convinced me. They've sold me.
Now, let's look at the lowest number of incidents in any one grade group.
Which grade?
That would be. You'd think it would be like. I mean, it's got to be like we already did 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. Those kids are out of control. So it must be 4th grade, right? Well, no, actually, the lowest number of incidents is the 11th grade. Those kids are 15 and 16 years old.
15 and 16-year-olds. Right.
That was
no hormones involved.
One involving 2 students.
One event involving 2 students. Could that also have been a situation where maybe there was a fight, an altercation between 2 students, and a teacher got involved, and the teacher might have got clipped? Is that possible?
But you know, students in the 10th grade, they're out of control. There was 3 events involving 3 students last year.
Wow. So
I
you know
mean,
what's interesting, Tom? If you look at this, right, and you go back in time. Now, remember, there's a reason why this city, this school committee. I'll do whatever I want, Fred. This is my show, buddy. And this week, I have a free pass. I can say whatever I want. So believe me, dude. Maybe it's not the day for you to try to push back on me. But yeah, it is a joke that you want to police 5, 6, and 7-year-olds. Yes, it's an absolute joke that you want to
clown
put
show
guns in schools to take care of those kids, and it can't be handled by the teachers. And apparently, there's a group of elementary school teachers who have gone on, have made it their life's goal now over this last new reporting period to go ahead and make sure that all those 5, 6, and 7-year-olds have permanent records. By the way, Tom, in this data, does it tell you the degree of seriousness of these assaults? Okay, so I don't know, a month ago or 3 weeks ago when the initial report came out, did it seem, at least to you, I mean, I don't know, it felt like to me that we were talking about 158 serious assault and batteries. Like it was like really dangerous. Like I mean, the media was wild in the
wild. Did the Telegram's columnist? He just was like,
it made Channel 5, Channel 7, Channel 25. It made the local state news about how violent the Worcester public school system was. But then it turns out that maybe this was fed to the media. Maybe this data was not completely vetted. Maybe there's a reason why they have a staged reporting system in the school committee that's actually more robust than our city council. It's one of the only processes where we have follow-up reporting to initial data. It's one of the only things we have in the city where they say, hey, and Jermaine Johnson, Jermaine Johnson, has he been on the school committee for a while now, Tom?
Yes.
Wasn't he a longtime school teacher too? Doesn't he have a lot of experience with the Worcester public schools? He does.
From my recollection.
My recollection is that true, and that Jermaine Johnson, also a parent of Worcester public school kids. He's also the vice chair, and a lot of times is the person who responds to this data. Didn't he say at the same time that we should wait for the full report to come out before we start accusing the kids of stuff that needs to get police officers in school? No, here's the problem. Is that they will never, we've already talked about this throughout the show. They'll never admit they're wrong, even when data, ever. There is literally no evidence. And I heard this too. It was wild. I heard different people go on thing and say this. There is no evidence in American history that police officers in schools decrease criminal activity. There's zero. There's also zero scientific evidence of any kind that police officers in school decrease interactions between teachers and students, or students and students, or students and staff, or students and coaches. Nothing. Zero. Nilch. Nada. But you know what there is scientific evidence of? That some kids see the uniform and are afraid in school.
Yep.
That's a fact. That's not a black and brown issue. That's a widespread young student issue that has been widely reported by conservative and liberal science. Wild. And what he's doing in the chat right now is proof. 100% proof. It doesn't matter, Tom, if we had evidence that shows, again, Jesus himself could appear on this show right now and say that they were wrong about this. He could come down in this chat in a third Zoom box right above us, and it would be Jesus, right? And yes, Jesus would have dark skin, folks. I'm sorry, it is what it is. So Jesus would come down, appear in the Zoom, and tell you it doesn't matter what evidence. It never, ever, ever will change your mind, because you're convinced, no matter what, that putting police officers police officers helps, but there's no evidence at all.
None.
And this reporting system is only 2 years old. It's only 2 years old. What's the major takeaway from the reduction in events in the high schools? Do you know what that is? This is actually goes back to Dr. Monterez in one of her initial speeches to the school committee, was that this program would eventually lead to over 4 year reductions in student environmental challenges, right? That's what they use kind of as a broader thing. And she said it takes 4 years to start seeing the data. This is only the second year of this reporting standard. They haven't even let the fourth year happen.
Nope, but they're, I mean, look, I mean, this is the same playbook this is the same playbook as the school committee, as the city council is. They want the support of the police for re-election, and I mean, what's the police union obviously going to advocate for? They want more business, so they want cops in schools. That's it. And then there's like, it condition. Basically, they say, this is not their words, but they basically say it conditions kids to be more comfortable with police officers. Comfortable with police officers. Police officers are there to arrest people. That's their job.
Gary Rosen said it on Central Mass Chronicles with me. He literally used that as his example. It's like, hey, we should get kids used to cops. They still have that thought process, even though it is a failing science-based failure of a policy over 50 years. This didn't just start the other day, folks. This didn't just start the other day. You know what's funny, Tom? If you go back to some of the original reporting standards that was done by the American Teachers Association back in like the late 50s and early 60s, do you know what a lot of those teachers were? Those early teachers? Pastors. A ton of them were pastors. Like you know what I mean? A ton of them were pastors. And they started this standard because even then they were questioning the need for a gun-based presence inside. Do you know what happens inside of a building when a gun enters a building? This is science. This is American data that we have. It's wonderful that they provide it. It's great. When a gun enters a building, you know what happens, Tom? The rate of gun violence goes up, potentially. You want to know why? Because a gun is present. It's really not that hard to understand. If there's no gun in the building, less. You know what's crazy, Tom? The same people who say this, they won't investigate or think about common sense gun control measures. None of them. The same group. The same group, man. The same group. The same.
More statistics.
This is because I don't. This is amazing.
There's a saying that most people haven't heard. If you go far enough left, you get your guns back. So let's not go there.
Yeah, that's true. That was a great line. I love it. I love that.
It's true.
Put that on the banner. Oh.
Meanwhile, 2.9% of students received out-of-school suspensions. Boston's rate is 3.3. Springfield's rate is 5.3. Statewide average is 2.9. So they were a half a point above the statewide average. There's no problem here. This is just, people who think that Monfredo should be in schools complaining that not enough kids are suspended.
It is what it is, man. They just by the way, where were the police officers back then in the 90s that were monitoring whether or not coaches were molesting children? Was there any police officers there for that inside of the school system? Because wasn't there stationed officers? That didn't happen. Oh, we had to rely on actual officers to push a report out. It turns out that, oh my goodness, they actually did find it credible that this dude did that. Yeah, that's the guy who was in charge of the school, was a school committee member for years and years and years, who pushed this other narrative. And by the way, his best friend, Maureen Bienda, who apparently this guy is a family member of hers, she's the one who's pushing this narrative. Her, Diane Biancheria, Kathy Roy, and apparently Gary Rosen, because he said it on Central Mass Chronicles. They just want cops in the schools. There's no policy behind it. It's just, we need cops in the schools. We got to get that. That's the only result, even though there's no data at all to support that. You obviously don't, Fred. You're completely deluded.
Yeah, standard right-wing nonsense talking points with no data. Stop it.
No data, no evidence, no nothing. Even though just now, here's the crazy part. In a conversation with any of them, and basically Fred is their king. If you have a conversation with them and point out 3 weeks ago, literally 3 weeks ago, that when the first initial report came out, they were all up in arms over this thing. And now there has been silence. Silence. Because the second part of the report came out, refuted their initial point, and they don't have an ability. And by the way, the media, Tom, that was complicit with this. You will hear not a word from the Telegram and Gazette or Hank. My man Hank, I'm going to see him tomorrow. He's going to flip this thing like nobody's business, but he's in the radio. That's his job. Show business, baby.
I don't think you will.
I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow because I'm excited to go tape with him at 12:30. I can't wait to hammer Gary with this thing. 96 5, 6, and 7-year-olds. That is the root of this violent epidemic here in the city of Worcester. Kindergartners, first and second grade. How come no one, not one person, in that entire apparatus of centralized thought processing thought, maybe we have a training issue with these teachers?
No, it's always the kids. Got to throw them out of school more.
You got to throw the kids out of school, right? You got to lock them up. But could it be that there's some kind of disconnect? Because, hey, I don't know, Tom. I don't remember exactly, but did we have kind of like a up and down superintendent search / changeover process over the past 4 years? That didn't happen at all, did it? It wasn't like there was a bunch of political people attacking the school system for the past 4 years since Maureen got fired, right? Yeah. It wasn't like all of those political operatives have been smashing kids left and right. The same group of people, Tom, who would never have accountability over police officers, ever, want to make sure that our 5, 6, and 7-year-olds are policed like they're violent criminals. Same group. Same group of people. Delusional.
Yep.
They live in all universe.
Yeah, I mean, no, they just live in a universe where facts comport toward their own, political ambition. They don't. I mean, they just don't care about facts. I don't know what else to say. I mean, these are people who believe that people who investigate themselves, that's effective.
Right.
Doesn't matter. You show them all the evidence in the world to the contrary. They don't even want to look at it. They don't want to engage in it. They don't want to pollute their mind with facts because they've already decided.
By the way, the same day that this initial report came out was the same day that Diane and Maureen moved to try to get John Manfredo back into the school system. So remember, that's their priority, folks. Their priority is to make sure they get their buddies back into school, even if there's credible accounts against them, and make sure we hammer these 5, 6, and 7. Hey, by the way, Tom, I have a question. I know that the information was just released in a press release by the Worcester Public Schools, but isn't part of the policy of the Worcester Public Schools with data releases, doesn't the school committee get that first?
I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure that's a policy.
Well, they don't have that policy in city government. I don't know why it would be the policy in the school committee.
Oh, that's only because the school system actually has accountability standards because there's lots of lawsuits involved with kids and students and data and information related to kids. And so it turns out that, you know what, I wonder how many of those school committee members that were pushing a very specific narrative, one that was not countered by Mayor Joe Petty. It was never countered by Mayor Joe Petty about these kids being violent and they need to be, we need to bring the police officers back into school. How early did they have this data? How early did they know that it was this group of kids? And by the way, again, how many of them knew that it was the second year of the reporting change? All of them knew that. Yet this mayor and his cronies at this point, in my opinion, lets this kind of thing happen in relation to kids on a regular basis. They allow kids to be attacked, kids to be have it. We got a guy in the. Oh, we did receive. Look at this. We have responsive government, literally here in
real time.
Thank Jesus for Jermaine Johnson. This guy is unbelievable. He comes into the chat and says, we did receive the info before the public statement. And thank you very much, Vice Chair Johnson, for your push for transparency into this data. You deserve an award. We should give this guy a plaque or something, because he said this when the initial report came out. We need to wait for all the data. And you know what? He was proven right. He was proven right. This was a narrative attacking children. It was a narrative attacking the school committee that has worked really hard through the national search for Rachel Monterez and all the way now a post-Maureen Bienda administration at the school system. They've done a tremendous job. There's literally zero evidence that they haven't done a good job. They've done a great job. Why not celebrate the freaking school committee doing great? They've done amazing. It's the only functional part of our city government, literally. And we still have 3 cranks on it who just want to attack children and make sure their pedophile buddies get back into the school system. Literally, that's it. It's crazy. We can't even have that perfect. But at least we have someone like Jermaine who literally pushed for transparency and data. And guess what? 96 of these incidents were 5, 6, and 7-year-olds. It's the best thing I've ever heard of. It's wild. And no one, and man, the narrative will just continue. It will just continue. I'm very grateful to school committee member, Vice Chair Jermaine Johnson. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you.
And it is really the fundamental belief here we're talking about. I mean, both of these issues, right? The school committee stuff and this council that's just doesn't believe in oversight or separation of powers. Core American values. It's a belief that government is only accountable to itself.
The funny thing is, we just had a literal example of what accountability could look like if there was some kind of oversight mechanism in place, and not just the police, just in general, in our government here in the city of Worcester. We have a person who was elected duly to a position of authority within the school committee system who gave the public reassurance about what was being used as incendiary political rhetoric. And he said, hey, you should wait for the data to come out. And it turns out, so now you have an example in real time of what it looks like when an elected official does their job and uses their public position to support doing their job. Isn't that amazing? What if we had not just a full everybody? What if everybody on the school committee and everybody on the city council all operated just like that? I'm not asking them to be perfect. I'm not asking that. No one's saying that that's never happened. Oh, it doesn't. I'm wasting my time with this guy. It doesn't matter. Yeah. That doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
Speaking of authoritarianism.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, absolutely. One time it's happened, and we must destroy.
Kill the 7-year-olds.
Yes. So maybe what we should do is we should have what's the Jim Belushi movie? What was the principal where they have the cages along all the classrooms? You gotta have those cage doors. We got to unlock the kids to let them out. Yeah. Remember, was it Jim Belushi, the brother, right? The Principal was the name of that movie. Do you remember that movie, everybody? Oh man, that's just wild. I just the willingness to trash our children.
Yep.
To trash our kids, but zero political will to question developers, to question the city manager, to question the city council on decisions that they've made, or their inability to formulate their own policy, or the fact that they're not operating as a legislature, or the fact that they don't even have their own attorney, they don't push for it at all, that they don't hold Spectrum accountable for the just wild stealing money from our city, that they don't hold anybody accountable. None of them. You just hammer kids and you question whether Paul Matthews
who really needs to be held accountable, not police officers. Again, in the minority, you have to add a disclaimer. The small amount of police officers who get together and make up stories to try and put people who didn't commit crimes in jail.
This is great. It's great.
That's perfectly fine. City council loves it, wants to see more of it, and encourages it every day.
Absolutely. So let's drag
But 6 and 7 year olds, they're the devil.
We got to run down 5, 6, and 7-year-olds, and we got to run Paul Matthews down. Those are the people that have to be held accountable in the city of Worcester. No one else needs to be held accountable ever. We don't ever question it. Oh, wait, hold on, my bad. Don't want to forget about. We got to make sure we charge Attell with crimes. We got to make sure that is how we deal with accountability in the city of Worcester.
Yeah.
Lock up the Albanian immigrant lady. Make sure you smash Paul Matthews, and make sure you get all those evil, physically violent kindergartner, first and second graders locked up as soon as possible.
Yep.
As soon as possible. I'm sure Sheriff Lou would open a whole special section over there at the Worcester County Jail if he could get a little bit of funding from the state. You know what I mean? You open up a kids section. We should just have him go to school over there. And then we could support the Worcester County Jail at the same time. Right? Look at this. We can affect multiple agencies, Tom. Unique idea, right? Throw a solar panel on the roof. We got the environmentalists on our side. Make the kids carried by drones whenever they commit a crime in school, from the school to the county jail. And now we probably have a proposal that everybody will be on board with.
It's ridiculous. The city is so stupid. And Fred, to see things and see the light in your view is to ignore all information and just continue to believe the thing you made up in your head. You can do that. I'm not gonna.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to say to those of you who have criticized me with my reporting and Tom's reporting on the drones, there's been two distinct drone proposals that have been offered on this program tonight. One, to pick up any unhoused person and bring them to services, and 2, to pick up the violent scourge 96 incidents of 5, 6, and 7-year-olds at Worcester Public Schools. So we have 2 brand new drone programs that were proposed here tonight. Mo Bergman, I know you're watching somewhere out there, and I want to make sure that you don't take credit for this drone program. I would like you to call it the John Edward Keel Memorial Drone Program to move both the unhoused and 5, 6, and 7-year-olds across the city. And of course, maybe it should be the Keogh/Batista plan, because Eric, of course, came up with the idea of AI drones that just open themselves up in response to a 911 call and float out to an incident. So of course, we just take the combined power, the combined brain cells of myself and our incredible city manager, put them together, mash them up, and we can have a drone program that will solve all these problems. I'm just saying, when you come to the This Week in Worcester podcast, you get results, baby. You get results. Make sure you share this to all your friends and
family. You have a 6-year-old who is not taking meds, could snap. I'll fight 10 6-year-olds. Like, what are you talking about? A 6-year-old weighs 30 pounds.
By the way, I am in a mood tonight, dude. I'm telling you this right now. I am in a mood. Holy moly.
This is I don't know. This is the city we live in, and people are gonna have to do something about it if you want it to change. And I don't, people have given up, and I don't blame them.
We also questioned Sam over at WGBH, who just reported that we had more vacancies than we thought. You would think that they would go, oh, there's more apartments? Hey, everybody, there's more apartments. Yay! Let's fill those apartments. Oh, no. Oh, my bad. There's studio apartments that cost $4,000 a month. My bad. My bad.
But the only you're a blogger unless you just repeat what they say.
That's right. That's right.
I'm a blogger.
You're a blogger. That's right. You're a blogger. Yeah, absolutely. This is the best thing I've ever heard of in life. We'll do whatever we want. This is the Tom and John show. You can't tell us what to do. This is our house. You came to our house
to say on my own show.
You take your shoes off and you sit down on the couch covered in plastic and you shut your mouth, because this is the Tom and John show.com. You know what I mean? Get out of here with that.
Out, kid.
Oh, I am. I'm out of control. I got to relax. I got to slow my roll.
Yeah.
So I completely fly off the handle.
Interesting wrinkle I just saw too. Grade 3, 15 incidents reported were committed by 7 students. So I mean, you're talking about a very small group of students who need intervention. But, you know, no, just throw them out.
The thing is that, you know, again, I mean, he's funny. It just reminded me, you know, when I was in 10th grade, right? I remember the worst fight I ever saw in school. The worst fight I ever saw in school. And it was actually between two girls, two Puerto Rican girls. Maria will probably love this story. And basically, one girl took one girl's head and put it in the locker, and then took the locker door and just smashed, right, until the assistant principal came and broke it up. And you know, the one girl was wrecked; she was bleeding, and it was blood all over the place, and all this other stuff. Okay, so you know, you would hear that in today's kind of environment. You would think that girl's got to go to jail. We gotta get her out. You know what I mean? I know both of those girls. I know both of those girls. And in fact, I will go this to say, one lives in Worcester and one lives in Auburn, right? That is a fact. And one married the other's brother. Okay, no longer together. But those two have been friends for 30 years. So sometimes the reaction to it doesn't have to be ruin the life. Now I know in that specific case, and there are pictures of these two girls, which would be great if they started if they jumped. I know they watch the show sometimes, but anyways, John's known quite a few Puerto Rican girls in his day, and so anyways, the long story short is that it didn't result in a crime or a record, and they were able to move on despite the fact that it was, in my opinion, the worst thing I ever saw between like two fist fighting kind of students, right? I saw other fights, obviously, outside of school that were worse.
Yeah.
Inside the school, it was crazy. There was blood everywhere. It was nuts. But you know what? It was resolved because the assistant principal, who was not a police officer, was able to figure out some kind of solution with those two girls and the families, and they ended up being best friends. They ended up being best friends for 3 decades, right? So that is something that happens in the world. It doesn't always have to be that it is the way to do it is to just remove the kid from school.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that first step. You know what I mean?
I mean, but you look, if you you know, if you're 5, 6, and 7 years old, I mean, you've got to be like sent to the moon or something. But you know, if you're a grown man and give under the color of law, decide to just beat the crap out of a pastor for no reason, that's your hero.
Yeah, if you were to take, I mean, it's not like that's ever happened in the city of Worcester. If you were to tase the pastor on his back while he laid down in front of his family in the church, that would never happen, right? But we would never have any responsibility for that. How about a young man having a dog attached to him by a police officer, when it turns out that young man was given permission by another police officer who still remains nameless and won't come forward because he's a coward. It remains nameless, by the way. That person's definitely in the chat, and I guarantee I'm getting a text message for saying that. Guaranteed. Lock it in, right? And then got other officers, including two officers who could not possibly see what happened because they were in a pile at the top of the screen in the video, wrestling somebody else to the ground. Those two officers lied with the same officer, because that would happen. That's a comic book story, Tom. That's never happened. Never, ever happened. It goes to the root of this entire show. It's not about police. It's not about school violence. It's not about the developers. It's not about Polar Park not pulling all the dollars that it said it was going to be. It's not about the fact that when the roads were supposed to be fixed, they weren't fixed, and now we have potholes, and we didn't even talk about all the water mains that have been breaking all over the city this wintertime, right? All the sinkholes that are opening up, and it turns out that the work wasn't ever done. It's not about any of that at all. It comes down to oversight potentially could stop one of these issues, and we would live in a better city. Just one. And that's
or
all.
At least if there was independent oversight, they could evaluate these things when they happen and, you know, make recommendations to put in systems that would prevent them from happening again.
And maybe if there was independent oversight, there would be new information that's not generated by a city manager who has an agenda. He has an agenda, as he likes to call it, the shared vision, right? For the
Yeah.
city. He has an agenda. Well, what if there was an independent group that provided us with different information? Couldn't city councilors benefit from that? Different information? It's not like the Worcester Regional Research Bureau provided a report like that recently. That would.
Or in the event when we had an inspector general, that they would be, you know, their job would be to investigate misconduct and then proactively look for waste, fraud, and abuse. But, you know,
Right.
why do we want to detect that stuff? That might
Yeah.
shine badly on people who need to get reelected to go back to council to accomplish nothing at all.
By the way, one of the I have had a city councilor tell me this. One of the people is objecting. One of their reasons for objecting to a civilian review board is because they're worried I would get on it, which I think is hilarious. I would never run.
And look, and you know, in another sense, like you don't want this group to do a civilian review board because they'll do like what Boston proposed last year. I don't think they're moving forward with this plan, but they have talked actively about an inspector general. But the first ordinance they wrote, it gave, you know, there was a board that made recommendations to the mayor, but the mayor appointed all of it. All, you know, made the appointments, and even the state attorney general, the state inspector general was like, no, don't do that. There is zero oversight. You know what I mean? That's not independent, right? So, you know, what they'll do is they'll give all the appointments to the mayor, to the city manager, and, you know, and then we'll have a replay of the Human Rights Commission, which can't do anything at all, even if it wanted to.
Right.
Because it doesn't have subpoena power, because it has to go through the city solicitor to use it, which means the city manager has veto rights over their ability to use that is not independent. That is a circle jerk.
What it ends up being in the end is that they literally have the path to resolving this issue right in front of them. Just make something up, guys. Just make something up. Get whoever Paul Saucier was talking to secretly about his own special citizens advisory panel. Get those folks locked.
And if he wants to do that, that's fine. That's not what anybody's talking about, though.
No. I'm just saying that if they want to, they can solve it kind of like at a basic level by just inventing something. Just make something up, guys. Just let it happen. Just, you know, make it up and then.
I know who. One person with an agenda might get on the. There's nobody at the police department with an agenda, though. When they investigate themselves and lie over and over and over.
Well, wait a second. Before going down that road, why is it that they're so worried about the people who would get elected to the Civilian Review Board, but not
elected? They'd be appointed in some way. Usually, it's a board that makes recommendations or whatever.
Okay, but fine, whatever. But why aren't they worried about the same thing on every other board? The city manager has power over all the boards and commissions in the city.
Because you know, you wouldn't have in any real civilian review board, you wouldn't have the city manager making the appointments. You would have, you know, either elections in council, or, you know, you'd have a board that made the appointments.
Hey, just do what the city of Boston did. Every member is approved by the chief of police. So it is what it is.
Did they really?
Yeah, that's what they did. You need the chief of police has veto power over the board members.
Yeah, so it's useless.
And in the few years that they've had the civilian review board, he's never exercised the veto power, which is just what happens is when someone's name comes up, you know, behind closed doors, they'll be like, "Hey, not that guy," right? Because they don't want to act.
Or they're viewing potential appointees in the light of his veto power. Yeah, it's stupid.
And which makes sense. I get it. Listen, when you put an operation in, the way that it works out in real time, you can predict it. You can actually say, "Oh, this is what will happen. There's a potential for this." And no one's saying that if you did have a civilian review board or an inspector general or whatever, that there wouldn't be potential issues with those two different things. Of course it would. Of course it would. We have a perfect example, literally working itself out in real time. It's a great example. The powers that we're watching President Trump use in ICE and immigration enforcement were actually enacted in 1996, signed into law by President Bill Clinton. It was an almost unanimous vote in the House and the Senate, right? So almost, you know who voted against it? Barney Frank, which I think is hilarious. I think it's great that Barney Frank. But anyways, you know, we that at the time they thought, oh, this will be a better way to create a stronger border and solve some of the Reagan era immigration problems that came from the partial amnesty that was given out in the second part of Reagan's administration. That's what they thought at the time. There was, and it was, and a lot of the people that were involved, Dick Cheney, Newt Gingrich, all these guys were like 80s era, hawks and doves and all this other stuff. And they thought, hey, we could get this in here and do that. When you put a power in place or you put some entity in place, there's always a chance that 25 years later or 30 years later, a person comes along and uses it in a way that it was never intended. Of course. Of course. It's the same argument against the gun, right? Of course, someone could take a gun and use it wrong. Doesn't mean the gun's bad, right? Right. That's the argument that they make. They say guns don't kill people, people kill people. That's the argument that they make. That same logic that you have, could it be applied to government action? Sure. No one's saying that. What we're saying here is, why not take a chance while we're still alive and we're still currently functioning as a government, kind of, for now, until they all come to lock us up, to make it better for everybody else. Or at least make an attempt at making a report about it. But that's it. That's all we're asking.
Yeah. But nope. The BOPS, and look, is BOPS better under this chief? Sure. They've already told the person who is going to be chief next that they're going to be chief next. So
that's right.
There is an expectation that this chief will leave at some point, not tomorrow by any means, but he's not going to be here another 5. I think nobody expects him to be here in that job another 5 years, right?
I would say I don't expect him to last this next city council term. That is my current understanding.
Well, regardless, the point is, okay, so it's better under him. What happens when they go to the next guy? Well, I can tell you what's going to happen. We're going to be plunged back into lawlessness, and nobody will do anything about it. That's what will happen.
At some point, probably pretty early next year, I'll be ready to make a report on the This Week in Worcester banner of that plan. Direct, specific, actionable information at some point, not that far off.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a secret. Like, everybody at the police department knows, as far as I can tell.
It's a very open secret, but I'm just crossing a few T's, dotting a couple I's before I give the full picture of it. And I'm hopeful that they'll refute it, like they do all the things that they say that I've gotten wrong, and then it turns out every single time that I'm right. It's always fun to get everything right. All right, man.
Yeah, maybe they'll put out a mean tweet at us.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for giving you credit for having thoughts.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for our DOJ statement that they were going to give us. Still waiting on that, Tom. Still waiting for that denial.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to be waiting on that for a long time. I feel like I might not hear. Yeah,
probably as long as that written report about what's right in the DOJ report. That's obviously never coming.
That's wild. It's wild. I also noticed that they didn't deny in our conversations with that our original reporting on the Department of Justice report. So it's weird how that didn't even come up in conversation. Like, hey, we heard about this. That's wrong too. Oh no, not at all.
Nope.
Not even a whisper of that.
I didn't believe them when they said it, but all kinds of people were saying, the DOJ report's not going to be bad. It was worse than bad. But then they just, DCF can literally tell people, can literally restrict people from working with children at all by the same evidentiary standard, reason to believe. I forget what it is now. What is it exactly called? But it's reason to believe that such allegations are true. They can suspend a person, they can prohibit a person from working with children. But the DOJ report with no names in it is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because they didn't blah, 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 blah. They didn't, launch a full criminal investigation and blah, blah, blah. So we don't have to fix it because none of this is true because it wasn't, it's ridiculous.
I'm with it, dude. I'm with it. It's wild. It's just wild,
Just remember, city government hates you. They don't care what happens to you at all.
But you know who does care about you kids out there? The This Week in Worcester podcast. We love you. We care for you very much, including our ops. We care for our ops. That's right. No cap. No cap. That's for our younger generation. You know what I mean?
And it's time for John's favorite part of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so this week, I mean, normally I like to question Tom about the favorite things. It is definitely Tom's, but so I obviously I had something personal happen this week, and so I was thinking a lot about that, and so what I would like to do this week is Fran's favorite things, and I'm gonna give you in perfect time. It's Christmas time, right? We did this last year. We talked about favorite Christmas movies and that kind of thing. And so, Tom, what's your favorite holiday, TV movie tradition? What's your favorite one? And then I'll tell you Fran's favorite.
I mean, it's gotta be Don't Shoot Your Eye Out. It's always on. You have to watch it.
That's great.
Like, you have to watch it.
It's a great movie. It truly is a great movie. It's a great movie. It was controversial at the time. So my mom's favorite movie of all time was The Sound of Music. I've talked about this a bunch of times, and it was her favorite. And this was the time of year that she would play it. For many years we were poor, and she had we had one VHS, and it was actually two tapes because back then they used to split them into two, and The Sound of Music was long, and so we had these two tapes, and it had all of the stuff that they've cut out. And people who have watched Sound of Music for years, you don't realize that you're missing an entire song, which is when Maria was on the bus to the Von Trapp family. There's a whole song on the bus. But anyways, which by the way, they should redo that song with modern beats and put people on a bus. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe Hollywood Film Group will redo The Sound of Music. But The Sound of Music is a film, and Maria had the two tapes. Yeah, there's a lot of movies like that. They used to do them with the VHS tapes. I think about this movie a lot, even though the Von Trapp family did not escape Austria during Nazi occupation. That's not true. They left in 1929 before Hitler, rose to power, and so they made the movie a little bit different, and to kind of create the tension and stuff like that. But it's really a beautiful film. Obviously, different style of acting, different style of film. But I really do think it informs a lot in relation to kind of some of the stuff we're talking about here today. And the scene that I think about all the time is when they're in the graveyard inside the convent, which, by the way, I don't know if there's anything like that in the United States anymore, that there's a convent and then inside the convent, a graveyard in the inside, right? Where they're hiding behind the things, and Rolf, the boyfriend, catches them, and then Captain Von Trapp is able to kind of stop him for a minute, and then eventually he blows the whistle, but they escape and they get over the mountains into Austria. That kind of perfect tension of that moment is the part where my mom always would get excited, and she would yell at Rolf. And so I just wanted to share that with you. That she would yell at Rolf and get mad at him in that moment. Like I knew he was a dick. She would say crazy. She would say crazy stuff to that guy. Anyway, so that's in honor of my mom. So there we go. That's all I got for favorite things this particular week.
Fair
but
enough.
You know what next week is, Tom? Next week is the most important show of the year.
It is?
It is. Isn't it next week? 21st? Right before Christmas? Yeah. It's the This Week in Worcester year-end awards. It's the Twiwies next week.
Oh, that's a terrible name.
It's the Twiwies. That's what everybody says. Everybody on the street is chanting it out. The Twiwies, folks. The Twiwies. TWIW, baby. So next week you will find out who wins the second annual Twiwies. Who's gonna win? Who's gonna win this year? I have to look up the article from last year, by the way.
Yeah, because I don't remember what we did. We'll have to come up with some new categories and whatnot.
I think we did 5 up and 5 down, something like that. Like five,
Oh, yeah,
five,
maybe. Yeah.
five good, five bad, something like that. I don't know. We can do whatever we want, Tom. We run this podcast. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah, we'll have to have a meeting.
We're gonna have a meeting. Gonna have a meeting in a midweek meeting, which we don't like. We don't like to do that. We're not.
No.
We're not big
we talk
fans.
enough here. We don't like to talk during the week.
We don't like to do. It won't be tomorrow though, because tomorrow I'll be on set doing the firefighter
on the
thing.
road again,
and then I might have a long drive ahead of me after that. But I'll be back later in the week. So
good stuff.
Good stuff.
One of my favorite songs in the world. The song's really about addiction, but it had me. I just recently kind of been thinking about it in the context of city government, and it goes, what I got to do to live a better way is going to be a better way than living like this. I was waiting for a better day, waiting for a better way, waiting so long that I lost my faith in these scumbags. Have a great week.